When it comes to investing, there's this constant tug of war, right? On one side, you have the amazing story, the hype, the promise of what's next, the stock everyone is buzzing about. And on the other side, you've got the kind of boring, cold, hard numbers, what the company actually earns, what it owns, its real value. So what happens when that story is just incredible, but the numbers, well, they just don't add up? Let's dive into that with a really powerful lesson from one of the craziest times in market history. Okay, picture this. It's 1999. The internet is exploding, it's changing everything, and the stock market is just electric. It felt like a brand new gold rush, where any company with a .com at the end of its name seemed destined for the moon. The hype was just deafening, and there was this feeling in the air that you couldn't lose. The big question for every investor was, how do you even pick a winner in this crazy new economy? To really get the vibe of the time, let's look at a tale of two totally different companies. So on one hand, you've got Emerson Electric. These guys were founded way back in 1890. They made real, physical things like power tools and motors. Super reliable, super profitable, but let's be honest, kind of boring. And then, in the other corner, you have Exodus Communications. They were pure new economy. They managed websites for this booming new thing called the internet. They were new, exciting, revolutionary, and yeah, everybody wanted a piece of them. And when I say everyone wanted a piece, I am not kidding. In 1999 alone, just 1 year, the stock for Exodus Communications went up over 1,000%. Can you imagine that? That's like putting 10 grand into a stock on New Year's Day and having over $100,000 by Christmas. The story was so powerful, it was creating its own reality. This kind of mania led to some truly wild statements. One online trader, totally high on the gains, actually said the stock would climb to infinity and beyond. I mean, that quote just perfectly captures the mood. People weren't just predicting growth, they were literally quoting Buzz Lightyear about a stock. The story had completely taken over. So, let's say you're an investor back in 1999. Faced with this choice, how in the world could you have seen what was coming? How could you separate all that hype from the actual reality? Well, believe it or not, the answer wasn't in some futuristic crystal ball. It was hiding in a lesson from almost 30 years earlier. All right, let's bring in our guide for this whole explainer, a guy named Benjamin Graham. You might know him as the father of value investing. His entire philosophy was built on a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. Don't get swept up in the story. Instead, focus on the numbers and buy a business for what it's actually worth. This wasn't a new problem. Way back in 1970, Graham was looking at the exact same thing. He compared these modestly priced value stocks to what he called glamour stocks. These were the exciting companies with great stories that were trading at super high prices compared to their earnings. And hey, get this. Look who's on his list of expensive glamour stocks back then. Yep, our old friend Emerson Electric, trading at 33 times its earnings. This just goes to show you that a company's label can change over time, but the basic principles of valuation, they don't. So this brings us to the most crucial point in Graham's entire philosophy. This concept he called the margin of safety. It's the absolute bedrock of value investing. All it really means is that you demand a discount. You buy something for way less than you calculate it's actually worth. That gap, that margin, that's your cushion. It's your safety net. It protects you if you're a little off in your analysis or if the future doesn't turn out to be quite as perfect as everybody thinks it will be. Okay. Now we're getting to the main event. Armed with Graham's timeless wisdom, let's jump back to the peak of the bubble in 1999 and see what happens when the story finally collides with cold, hard reality. And wow, when you put on Graham's glasses, the picture becomes crystal clear. Look at the numbers here. Emerson Electric, which was once a glamour stock, is now trading at a pretty reasonable 17.7 times earnings and was making over $1 billion in profit. But then look at Exodus. Its price-to-earnings ratio, not meaningful. And you want to know why? Because it's kind of hard to have a PE ratio when you have no E, no earnings. In fact, they lost $130 million that year. The story was incredible, but the business itself was just burning through cash. For anybody who bought in at the peak, totally caught up in that frenzy, well, the next 2 years were about to be a brutal, brutal lesson in the difference between price and value. That story about infinity and beyond had a very, very finite ending. From 2000 to 2002, Exodus Communications stock lost 99.9% of its value before the company went bankrupt. The investment was completely, totally wiped out. And it wasn't just Exodus. EMC Corp., another one of these high flyers that was trading at over 100 times its earnings, saw its stock get crushed, down 88%. The promise of endless growth just couldn't save investors from paying a price that was totally disconnected from the business. And what about good old boring Emerson Electric? While the rest of the market was just imploding, its stock barely even flinched, ending the whole period down just 4%. See, it didn't have a thrilling story, but it had something much more important: a solid business that was bought at a reasonable price. It had a margin of safety. I mean, just look at this. This is the final scoreboard. When you see the outcomes side by side like this, the lesson is just unavoidable. The stocks that were priced for absolute perfection got destroyed when reality turned out to be messy. The stock that was priced reasonably, it survived the storm. So this isn't just a history lesson, right? This is actually a practical guide. How can you apply these ideas yourself? Well, Graham didn't just give us a philosophy. He gave us a clear, actionable toolkit. And here it is, a 7-point checklist for what Graham called the defensive investor. It's basically a set of simple rules. He's looking for big, financially solid companies with long track records of making money and paying dividends. But most importantly, and this is the real kicker, look at points 6 and 7. He demands a reasonable price relative to both earnings and assets. This is exactly how you build that margin of safety into your own portfolio. Ultimately, this whole thing boils down to a fundamental choice. And it's not about being smart or dumb. It's about what you're actually trying to do as an investor. Are you trying to predict the future, or are you trying to protect yourself from it? See, you've got the predictor. This person is trying to guess which amazing story is going to come true, and they're willing to pay a really high price for that guess. But the future is always uncertain, which makes this a super risky game. Then you have the protector. They focus on what they can know today. They figure out a conservative value for a business and simply refuse to pay more. They're not trying to be a hero. They're just trying not to get hurt. You know, Graham himself summed it up perfectly. The goal isn't to find the next big thing. He said the main effort, the real hard work, is just making sure you have that cushion, that gap between the value you're getting and the price you're paying. That right there is the heart of intelligent investing. So as we wrap this up, the key takeaway is really a question to ask yourself the next time you hear about some can't-miss stock with an unbelievable story. Are you actually buying a piece of a solid, profitable business at a fair price? Or are you just paying a steep admission fee for a story that sounds a little too good to be true? It's a question that mattered in 1999, and trust me, it matters just as much today.